my body is always speaking a language that we don't even know about and we don't even think about. We just think of it as I'm hurting in my joint, or I've got a headache, or I've got indigestion, or whatever it is. And we think that these are things I just need to see a doctor about and have him fix it. What we're not seeing is that our body is actually speaking a language about something that we're experiencing and feeling. And so if I realize that if I'm getting a sore throat and a cold, or if I'm getting indigestion, or I'm getting the flu, or I've got a pain in my joint, or in my ankles or feet, or whatever it is, that if I'm doing that, then my body is speaking. And if I can stop and see what the language is that it's speaking, is it saying, that I need more loving attention? Is it saying I need to let go of my worry thoughts or fear thoughts that are just making me feel bad? Or can I see it's just a language to be translated? And if I can see what that language is and what my body is really needing, from what's being expressed in it, am I not giving myself more peace or more loving support, or am I judging myself all the time? Or am I bringing programming from my childhood that I'm yearning for somebody else to love me or be kind to me or whatever, but I seem to be attracting the opposite all the time? Well, that's because that's what got programmed in. And so my just continuing to seek for what it's telling me to just keeps me in the pain until I can stop and see, I have all these traumas or these deprivations or these rejections or these criticisms from my parents. I need to deactivate those. And then when I do that, that pain in those joints or in the muscles or wherever it is often just goes poof, because the body is just speaking a language to be translated. But that's not what contemporary medicine uses. But that would be in more line with the new science of the whole last century. That my body is just a language to be translated and attended to in a way that's more lovingly supportive and kind, rather than operating out of fear and worry or judgment. Quite a number of decades ago, when I was living in Manhattan, and I used to do a lot of exercising, like running in Central Park and stuff like that. And then I got to the place I started getting back pains, and they got a little bit worse, and they got a little bit worse. And as they got worse, then finally it got so bad, and I went to see a doctor. He says, chances are if you're walking again without back surgery, it's like 98% chance that you won't walk again without surgery. And I thought, wow, I don't want that, because I was having excruciating pains. I could barely get to the bathroom and back, and that was it. But then I investigated back surgery, and I found at that time, 98% of the time you had the surgery, you were worse off afterward. And I thought, boy, do I want to risk that, to be worse off, and a 2% chance I'll feel better? I thought, no way. And that's when I began to be curious then. I wonder what my back is saying. And it helped me get in touch with something I learned much earlier in my career. When I was in graduate school, I used to get severe sore throats and colds several times a year. And they were quite debilitating. I started in my teenage years, and I kept going through college and then in graduate school. And then I was out one day in the yard doing some repair of the fence for my dog who was getting out near a highway. And I started to get my horrible sore throat and cold. And I thought, boy, I was really upset because I had comprehensive exams in a few days. And I thought, I need to be able to think straight. I don't want that, be debilitated with my back injury, or colds in this instance. And so I finally began to be curious. And then I saw my neighbor looking out of her kitchen window over my yard, and I felt a pang of guilt. I thought, whoa, what's that about? Then I thought, I promised to do something for her, to move some furniture for her. She lived with her father, and was old, and he couldn't move the furniture, and I'd promised I'd move it for them. And I was going to do it after I took comprehensive exams on Monday. And I was 3 days away, and I thought, I always keep my word. I was going to come over after I'd taken my exam, and I was going to stop by her house and do that work. But then I projected onto her that she was looking out the window, seeing me doing something for my dog, and that instead of doing what I promised to do for her father, and I felt guilty, and I felt like she was blaming me or shaming me in her mind as she looked out her kitchen window. That caused me to wake up, and I realized There's no way I'm trying to get out of doing that. When I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I always keep my word. I've always kept my word. I don't make false promises. And I will be over there on Monday. And I said, my body seems to be trying to get me out of it. If I got a bad back or I've got colds or whatever it is would be in this instance, then I couldn't go over there, helping them out. And then I thought, well, what do I prefer to do with this rather than having a horrible sore throat and cold to go into the exams? And I saw her by the kitchen window, and I saw her looking out, but I projected onto her what I thought she was saying. Yeah, here he is doing all this work out in the yard, and it's snowing, and it's cold, and everything else, and he's doing that when he's not done what he's going to do for my father. Well, I don't know if she was thinking any of those thoughts or not, but I was thinking that way. Then I realized, well, I don't want to get one of those colds, so how would I prefer to deal with it? So I came up with the idea then that I would just, as soon as I finished my work, I would go inside, pick up the phone, give her a call, tell her I had comprehensive exams on Monday, I hadn't forgotten her father, and I'd be over right afterward to do the work. The amazing thing happened. After I did that and made my commitment to deal with this issue differently, I started to not get that sore throat. It began to go away in the beginning of the cold symptoms. And guess what? I've never had a single sore throat or cold in all the decades since. Because I learned from that experience, if I can look at what a symptom is beginning to say and find another way of dealing with it, it may not be a dramatic way, it might be, or it might be just a plain one, like the simple one I did then. If I can deal with it differently, my body won't be needing to express it. So that's what I mean by how much our bodies are affected by what's going on in our minds. Because most of medicine is still based on the science of 350 years ago of Isaac Newton, where something outside you causes the problem and something outside you fixes it. But that's the old science of 350 years ago, because the new science says it's consciousness that rules over matter. And here in these two instances, when I learned that firsthand for myself, that's what led me to believe it more and to help other people do it more and to see the same results occurring. Because if my consciousness is what rules my body, then I need to attend to what I'm thinking about this, how I'm interpreting that, what meaning I'm giving to something. And if I can do that and have a healthier solution instead, we have no need for the symptom anymore so often. Well, many people have often been curious as to how I can do that with myself, with my symptoms, whatever it is. Well, having gone through that myself, that's what inspired me to do my recent book, Your Power to Heal. And it's really just giving a bunch of the tools and techniques that we can use in depth on ourselves or with family members or friends or patients if we're in the profession. But we can use these tools to identify what the body is saying, how to deal with it differently, and most often the symptom just goes away when we have an alternate and more healthy way of dealing with what the body is saying in its symptom. Well, many people ask me how they can get to it, and with the culture being what it is now with the virus, one place people find they can get my book is on Amazon, and just by going there you can get a new copy or a used copy. But it would just give you the instructions about how you can deal with these issues of translating what's going on in your body and how to find health instead.